Hello, my name is Brian Lewis, and I'm an instructor for JTNS in Public Works. We're going to cover top 10 reasons for accidents. Before we get started, though, I would like for you to pause this presentation, talk about any near misses or accidents you've had. When you're finished, go ahead and hit play, and we'll continue the presentation. So, hopefully, you had a fruitful discussion. And as we talk about the top 10 hazards that we may deal with, notice we'll have fall from heights as well as slips, trips, and falls. These are a little different. Fall from heights means there's not much fall, or if any fall protection, it's not adequate. Slips, trips, and falls are things that happen on the same level that you're working on. You'll notice we talk about scaffold and ladder malfunctions. That's things that happen when we don't inspect those pieces of equipment the way we should. Have machinery type accidents, electrical issues, all kinds of particular things to public works. We talk about ground trench collapses, vehicle accidents over the road, overexertion or repetitive injuries that are typical ergonomics. We do real hard physical work. And sometimes we just have issues where we don't have the correct training and we don't recognize the conditions we're dealing with. Now, it is important that we talk about accidents being unexpected and unintentional. If something's intentional and it's expected, we're talking about negligence and criminal kind of activity. So it's important that we really take some time and realize that accidents are just something you don't plan for. Now, almost all work accidents could be prevented, and we're going to talk about that more in the next couple of 3 slides. But it's really important that we don't fall into a trap of thinking that we can't avoid some of the hazards we deal with or that you all deal with on a daily basis. The truth of the matter is, it's just part of the human condition to get comfortable taking risk. And these are risks that impact people's lives, and we should really do our best to avoid them. So that's important. I try to really emphasize that we take responsibility for ourselves and the people we work with. So I am asking you to take responsibility for the people you work with, that you are your brothers and sisters keepers. If we all take responsibility for ourselves and those around us, we're going to have a pretty decent safety record, and we're going to have a pretty decent safety program. Now, paperwork's required, and paperwork's important, and we should treat it that way. Even though it's irritating and not fun, it's important. But it's more important that we take care of ourselves and the people around us. So please keep that in mind. This is a human business when we talk about safety. Now, near miss is just an accident that did not happen but had the potential to really impact someone's life. Oftentimes, it has to do with people not standing in the right spot when an accident or a potential accident occurred, people not having their hands or their feet where they normally would, and you have a near miss. Something, if somebody had just been standing 6 inches this way, if they hadn't have had their hard hat on or their safety glasses or their safety shoes, had a real serious injury or impact to their lives, and in a lot of cases could have resulted in somebody being killed or disabled. And we want to avoid those kind of situations. So treat near misses with the gravity that they deserve. Treat them like they're important. And part of that is this accident triangle. So if you look, you have for every 300 near misses, we have roughly 29 accidents. Now, these accidents are not first aid. We're talking about going to urgent care, walk-in clinics, emergency rooms, that sort of thing. And please realize these numbers are rough numbers. So roughly 300 near misses is going to equal roughly 29 injuries, recordable injuries, or accidents. And for all of those 329, we'll have one really serious injury and maybe even a fatality. So that's the reason your JTNS instructor asks, has there been any near misses, accidents? We want to avoid the fatality that's at the top of this triangle. And if we control those things at the bottom, that gives us a good opportunity to not have to deal with the fatality. Now, 98% of all accidents are due to unsafe conditions and or unsafe actions. So we're going to talk about in this presentation looking at the hazards of the job we're going to do, but also looking at the big picture at the job site. And when we look at the big picture, we're trying to take in all the conditions that can make the work unsafe. Not everything that's an unsafe condition is going to be directly impact the work that's being done, or is not a condition of the work being done. Weather plays a part, traffic plays a part, all kinds of things play a part in that particular job site. We need to pay attention to it. So 98% of all accidents are due to unsafe conditions, unsafe actions. So we need to identify the hazards that we're going to have to deal with. And so it's really important that when you hold your job briefing and you're talking about the work that needs to be done, that you talk about the hazards you're going to have to deal with that are particular to that job. And it's also important that you look around the site and take in the big picture and identify any hazards that you need to try and attempt or actually control to have a safe work environment. Poor communication before the job, during the job, after the job, all in between, all the time can really cause problems. That's why when we talk about the job briefing, whether it's a formal or informal one, it shouldn't be just a piece of paperwork or something that you have to say that you did. It should be taken seriously. A lot of times we fail to use engineering controls. An example of that's using of a trench box. It's important that we use it correctly. It's an important engineering control, and along with that, administrative controls. For example, using taglines to place the trench box correctly in the trench is important. Rotating jobs so that one man doesn't have to continuously wear a body part out, and using the right tool for the right job. These are overexertion and repetitive injury type things. And public works, utility work is a very physical job, and we need to try and take care of ourselves the best we can. PPE is the last line of defense, and failure to inspect it, failure to use it and wear it properly is a big deal. We want to make sure we treat our PPE with respect and do it that way. Make sure it works as the way it's intended. Now, a lot of times when I go and have investigated accidents, I'll hear things like, oh, we've done it this way for 20 years and nothing like this has happened yet. When I hear that, that just tells me somebody somewhere has been ignoring near misses. Another common thing that I will hear is, hey, it's only going to take 5 or 10 minutes. When we're talking about things like permit required confined spaces and trenching and excavation, you open that cut in the earth, that man-made cut, you start digging. Whether that thing collapses 5 seconds after you dig it or 50 years down the road, if you don't fill it in, it's going to collapse. Nature is going to fill that hole in. And this idea that we can just do it in 5 or 10 minutes and that's acceptable risk is not a good thing. So, policies and procedures. Some people have just a poor attitude towards safety, and I get it. Sometimes it's just seen as an unnecessary evil. But what I'm going to tell you is all of these OSHA regulations, all of the DOT regulations and the things we follow, they're written in somebody's blood. There's been people severely hurt or tragically have died because of conditions and how we assess those conditions and our actions, how we deal with them. So we try to stop that. We don't want people dying on the job. So we want to make sure we have communication and employee involvement, make sure we talk about these things and make sure everybody's on the same page. Some other reasons, poor traffic control, because traffic control is hard to do. You have to take charge if you're a flagger. You can't sit back and be passive in that position. And it's difficult to control people on the road driving. They don't always pay attention. They have really poor attitudes. They're angry and they're mean and they say and give bad sign language. And so having to deal with that, it's rough. So we got to deal with it. Got to deal with it the best way we can. We need to inspect trenches, not just before you go in them, and not before if it's been open overnight each day, but continually because conditions change during the day. So we need to do that. We need to use taglines on trench boxes. We need to take care of ourselves. So some other reasons for accidents: failure to drive safely to and from the job, distracted driving, obeying the traffic laws. It goes without saying, driving to the job site's part of the job. And so we want to obey the traffic laws. We want to use our turn signals. We want to, if we have information that's coming to us, we want to be able to handle that in a good way. If you're driving, let somebody in the truck handle that information, that communication, while you pay attention to the road. Yellow lights mean slow down and get ready for a stop sign or a stoplight. So we want to obey those laws. Not everyone out there does. And I know that you all know that because, like me, you're on the road and you see how these people drive and their attitudes. But we have to maintain some professionalism when we operate our own personal vehicles as well as company vehicles. Sometimes people just have a lack of training. It may be formal training, but it may be on the job training. And so when you're training somebody that's new on the job, it's really important that you discuss why you do certain things a certain way. If they don't know the how and the whys behind it, they may think they know a better way. They may not communicate very well. And before long, somebody has performed an unsafe action. So it's not just enough on the job training to say we do it this way. You have to say we do it this way and this is why we do it this way. So we need to cover all the aspects of the job and cover all the stuff that's important. Whether we're talking about a particular job briefing or a procedure that we do all the time, why it's done a certain way. We need to use the right tool or the right equipment for the job. I know that people use whatever's handy for a hammer, whether it's a crescent wrench or whatever. People are tempted to use flathead screwdrivers for chisels. They're not meant to be chisels. They're meant to be screwdrivers. Sometimes it's just, hey, we got to go way too far, take way too long to get the right tool for the job. I'm going to use what's right here and what's handy. And that kind of attitude, one tears up the tools and sometimes make them not safe to use. And we need to make sure we do that. A lot of times it's just, hey, if we don't do this now, we're not going to get the job done as quick as we want to. And that may be true, but it may you may incur a lot of risk. And you don't want to incur risk. You don't want to make things riskier. You want to do them as safe as you can. Some other things we need to do, all of us need to do, is just have better communication. Make sure we say things in a straightforward way. Not make assumptions. Communication is always going to be the best tool when we're talking about new people on the job, when we're talking about job briefings, we're talking about on the job training, we're talking about how to get things done the best way possible, the safest way possible. We don't need to be jerks about it. What we need to do is be adults, and if somebody needs to do something different or wear their PPE, just remind them. And if you're the person that's being tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, you forgot to put your safety glasses on, don't be a jerk back. You, you know the rules. Let's do the rules, right? Sometimes we lose sight of the big picture, we ignore hazards, and we have all kinds of issues with that, right? And so we want to make sure that we take in the big picture. So a lot of times if you're having an on-the-site job briefing, you talk about the work that's going to be done, the hazards that are associated with that. We make sure everybody knows their role and responsibility when it comes to getting the work done, as well as safety. But I'm going to ask you to take just a minute and look around at the world that's outside of where the job is being done. Look outward, and sometimes you'll notice certain conditions, certain things, whether it's a traffic pattern, whether it's people that speed in this particular part of the world, things that you need to take account of and avoid those unsafe conditions as much as possible. Now, in public works, particularly anything having to do with utilities, physical fatigue is real, especially when there are weather-related events, you're working long hours, it's hard physical stuff, and you're going to get physically fatigued and mentally fatigued. And equipment's going to get fatigued too. Equipment fails when it's used and not properly taken care of. So long hours, hard work, equipment that we don't inspect properly, we don't maintain properly, we don't put in the right place leads to failures. When we talk about tools that are on the truck, the tools should have a particular place. Anything that's sharp should have a sheath on it. Anything that has fuel should go in a particular place. All these things have a place, and we should pay attention to it. So we also need to pay attention to the job briefings, whether you have one job briefing for the entire day or whether you do separate job briefings at work sites, whether they're formal that you fill out on a piece of paper or on an iPad or a computer. It's important that this is just not something that's ignored, that it's taken seriously. It's a chance to make sure everybody goes home with all the fingers and toes that they came to work with. It's important that we re-emphasize safety rules every chance we get. And as we've talked about before, personal accountability. Accountability for yourself and accountability for the person next to you. As I've already said, paperwork is necessary, it's required, we ought to do it to the best of our ability, but don't lose sight that your responsibility is to take care of yourself and the person beside you. And a job briefing will go a long way to help with that. In the job briefing, we can take the gray areas and make them black and white so everybody knows what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and how to do it safely, why we're doing it the way we're doing it, which is to do it safely, to do it effectively, to do it efficiently. So all those things are important. It's important we look at the work that we're being done, as I've said before, but it's also important that we look at the world around where we're working at that particular job site. It's important that we know that those rules that have been established are for our protection, and that's why we should follow them. There's always a temptation not to follow the rules, whether it's to get done quicker or just a rebellious attitude. It's not a good thing. So when we do job briefings, and we want our job briefings to be well led. We want people to understand what's going on. We want to make certain that everyone's included. We want to make sure that everyone's paying attention, that everybody has an opportunity to talk about what they see and to ask questions about what they're not sure about. So I know some people are sort of passive in their attitudes or their personality, but I'm going to encourage you to speak up if there's something you don't understand, especially if you're new. Make sure you understand why you're doing something the way that your mentor is telling you to do it. It's important. We talk a lot of times about swing radiuses, and we talk about buckets and being struck by machinery, and that's important. So we need to talk about our work procedures, the hazards that's associated with each one, any kind of special precautions we need to take, any kind of how we need to control the hazards, what we need to do as far as trenching and locations, and our PPE, making sure that it's inspected, making sure we have emergency location information readily available. If something does go wrong, we don't get upset when that 911 operator asks us our address. Realize they're practicing active listening. They want to get that address and the pertinent information. They want to make sure they get it right so that when they dispatch emergency personnel, they go to the right place in the world. And it's real easy to get upset with that sometimes, but they're just trying to do the best that they can to get people there as quickly as they can. Now, I've already mentioned the bucket and swing radius and approaching a backhoe or track hoe or any piece of heavy equipment. We always work facing that piece of equipment so we can watch it and watch the operator, and the operator can see us. It's really important. It's very difficult, if not close to impossible, to have good engineering controls when we talk about some of these pieces of heavy equipment like backhoes and track hoes. So, since there's not a lot of really great engineering controls, we have to fall back on administrative controls and PPE, wearing our hard hats, wearing our safety shoes, our safety glasses. But the administrative controls where we watch each other and take responsibility for each other is really important. It's important that you communicate before you approach the backhoe and get in the swing radius of that bucket. Now, some other hazards that you all know as well as, or better than anyone else, things like underground utilities, because you've had to go fix your utilities when people hit them. So whether it's electrical, whether it's water, wastewater, or gas, fiber optics, those things, it's important that we take those into considerations. Now, when we talk about hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, explosive atmosphere, appropriate amount of oxygen, we need to take into consideration permit required confined space. Always test that atmosphere. And in a lot of cases, we should be testing the atmosphere in trench and excavation also. When we know how deep we're going, where it's located, what's been there before, we need to take into consideration that these hazardous atmospheres can bite us just as much as a trench collapse, cause fatalities and severe injuries. Now, when we talk about personal protective equipment, fall protection, hard hats, safety glasses, gloves, high visibility clothes, safety boots and shoes, it's important that we make sure that our safety equipment is certified by ANSI, that we inspect it and make sure it is in good shape, that we wear it consistently the way it is meant to be worn, and we take care of it. And when it shows signs of excessive wear and it's not going to protect our head, our eyes, our hands, our feet, or make us visible to traffic, that we do what we need to make it right. So if we don't wear it right and correctly 100% of the time, it's not gonna do its job. So some other things that we need to do, talking about job briefings and other issues, especially when we're talking about on-the-job training. If you're the trainee, you need to ask some questions. If you're taking part in a job briefing, you need to ask questions. You need to know who, what, when, and where. You need to make sure this information's communicated. If you're the trainer, make sure you communicate it. If you're the trainee, make sure you understand it and ask questions about it. If you're in a job briefing, the person leading that job briefing ought to give you an opportunity to ask questions, ought to encourage you to ask questions. And you, even if though you're not a very vocal person, need to speak up and make sure you understand what's going on. Make sure you understand those things. Please remember, if you take anything away from this presentation, roughly 300 near misses is going to lead to roughly 29 injuries, illnesses, accidents, and will eventually lead us to one really serious injury and even potentially a fatality. So it's really important that we treat near misses with the respect they deserve. Make sure you just don't blow that stuff off. Make sure we take it into consideration. Make sure that you realize you are responsible for yourself and your coworkers, that you need to communicate. Don't assume that they're in their right thinking at that particular point in time, and make sure that they're thinking about what they need to do to get out of there safe and keep you safe also. That's important. I want to say thank you for your time. I hope this has been informative. If you have any comments or questions, please do not hesitate to talk to your JTNS instructor. If they don't know the answer to the question right off the top of their head, they will go and they will do some research and get that information back to you. Thank you. Have a nice day.